Welcome back. Newsflash, it turns out not everyone agrees with Ann Coulter. Joining us now, someone who most likely falls into that category, Air America radio host Rachel Maddow. Rachel, welcome.
She's actually an ex-girlfriend of mine, little known fact. So it's very personal. A lot of our disagreements are personal, but I can see her politics too.
You got the video, I'll pay cash. Yeah. No, excuse me. Ann Coulter is one of those people best experienced in print, I think. If you actually read Ann Coulter's columns, you read her book, you may not agree with it, but you think this is actually really pretty thoughtful. She's a very tight writer. She's a nice writer. I think quite clever. It's statements, and I agree with most things she says. And I like her because she infuriates these kind of uptight liberals. They want to eat her. They hate her so much.
She's
so,
the
of course,
bullseye.
I like her for that. But when she makes comments like this about the 9/11 widows, it just allows people to dismiss her completely. It's almost a form of masochism. Why would you say something like that?
Well, it is. I do think it's a form of masochism, is right, and I think that it's designed to make a lot of people pay attention and get very angry and to think of her as something worth talking about. It's a way of kind of throwing a tantrum in public. But what I think is important about the 9/11 widows thing is actually the point she's trying to make, not just the headline, not just insulting these people, but she's trying to say that this liberal infallibility doctrine. That's her point. Right? That liberals put up people who you're not allowed to argue with, which is it's kind of a bizarre argument. That only makes sense. You would only think that you can't argue against a 9/11 widow if the way you argue with people is by attacking who they are.
Well, no, I think that may be right, but a deeper point I think that she's making, or at least that I have noticed over the years, is the liberal belief, and it's an article of faith, that suffering confers wisdom. And in fact, suffering does not confer wisdom. And simply because, I think it is true. But simply because you have suffered through something, you have been the victim of this, that, or the other thing. I've suffered, I've been there, I don't know, I survived, whatever it was that you survived, doesn't mean you have moral authority that exceeds anyone else's moral authority, nor does it mean you have particular insight or wisdom into anything. It doesn't make you an expert.
I don't think it's that victim equals expert. I think what liberals, and particularly academic liberals, have prioritized is people who have been there, people who have seen things firsthand, should be allowed to speak for their own experience. And whether that means you're a victim or whether that means you're an expert because you saw it with your own eyes, it's an eyewitness priority.
It doesn't mean they should be, of course they should be able to, I mean, nobody's preventing them from speaking from their own experience. The question is, should they make public policy? So you go up to Capitol Hill on any given day into the Senate, and some Democratic senator's got a victim of this, that, or the other thing up there telling you what federal law ought to be on this, that, or the other question. It's the Jim Brady syndrome. I think Jim Brady seems like a great guy, and I'm so sorry about what happened to him. What happened to him does not allow him, not give him the authority to take my guns away or control how I use my firearms.
No, Jim, he doesn't have the authority to take your guns away, but he does have the authority to speak to the issue as somebody who suffered gun violence. I want to know his perspective on it.
He knows no more about the dynamic in society of gun violence than any other person who studies it, and less than many, in my view. He was a victim of a horrible crime. It does not give him insight into what the laws ought to be. You see, that's the distinction.
No, when we make laws, we need to know about the various perspectives on the issue. So we need to know about the perspective of people who've experienced gun violence. When it comes to making policy on 9/11, when it comes to responding to the 9/11 Commission and to those recommendations, we should hear from the people who most directly suffered the effects of 9/11.
Well, tell me,
who are the family members.
Tell me quickly.
That's not controversial.
How much does the left hate Ann Coulter? I mean, it's like a seething obsession, right? Ann Coulter, I imagine when everyone from Air America Radio gets together to, whatever, eat macrobiotic food and smoke pot, Ann Coulter is topic A of conversation, correct?
After we smoke pot, there's not much talking. It's just a lot of sleeping and twitching. No, the thing about Ann Coulter, listen, I expected that, I knew you were going to be talking to her for 2 segments, I'd get to respond for a few minutes afterwards, and I expected to be outraged and to storm onto the set and grab your microphone and take over, but you know what? I don't think she makes very much sense. And so I don't feel very threatened by her.
Ooh.
When she says liberals
contempt, huh?
Liberals are against science. Liberals are against, and then she cites stem cell research. I just kind of think, you know what? I don't even really need to respond to that, because when you think about science and conservatives right now, science in the Bush administration, which she's so worshipful of, and she's going to say liberals don't like science, like, you know what? She's a little...
As someone who believes science is overrated myself, I'm not even going to take a stand in this argument. Rachel Maddow, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tucker. I appreciate the opportunity to respond.
I'm not sure that was equal time, but you pack a lot into a short period. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks.
Still to come.